Welcome to the Soul Touched by Dogs podcast, the show for dog lovers who see dogs not as toys or tools, but wise souls worth our respect and care. I'm Anke Herman, and I'm your host. I talk to awesome humans, people who do great work for dogs and their people. So come and join us for today's conversation. Hello and welcome, Lisa. I'm super excited to have you here with me.
I can't thank you enough. It's so delightful. And we've chatted just teeny tiny bit. And, this promises to be a fun 20, 25, 30 minutes.
It will be, I guarantee it. So let's just slide straight in and let people know where you're based and, what's your business with dogs? And what about Cold Nose College? It's just so
Yeah.
adorable.
Oh, I love that. And again, kudos to my husband and business partner who came up with that name after, many late night trying to come up with a company name. I am located in the very western tip of North Carolina. So people think, oh, are you near the coast? Like, no, it's 546 miles to the coast of North Carolina. It's a very long state, if you will. But it's rural. It's very rural. But I'm 2 hours from several major cities. And we were, up until just about 2 years ago now, we have two other positive reinforcement trainers locally, one of whom was a student of mine with the Victoria Stilwell Academy, and the other went through the academy. They're both graduates. So I'm so happy to be able to refer to them because we only now at Cold Nose College, Brad and I have been focusing on educating the next generation of professional dog trainers through the Victoria Stilwell Academy.
Wow.
Here in this office, working from home, I'm focused on my own dog, of course, and helping him lead the best life he can possibly lead. And I'm still focused on promoting my book, Rocket Recall, which came out, gosh, almost 3 years ago now and is still doing well. But we can talk a little bit about that later. But I think my main mission now, and really has been for lots of years, is making sure that my dog and those people I touch who have a dog, that people understand the most important thing you can do for your dog is helping them feel physically and emotionally safe.
Yeah, I love that.
Because no matter what we want our dogs to learn, and we all want them to learn something, they need to learn things to live how to live in our weird human world. But if anyone, dog, person, rhino, fish, I mean, if a being doesn't feel safe physically and emotionally, they can't learn.
Yeah.
So feeling emotionally and physically safe allows us to be able to learn.
That's so true. And it's so overlooked still, you
I
know?
think it is. I think it is. Though I'm so thankful that VSA, the Victoria Stilwell Academy, we're teaching our students that there's a difference between just doing. So 20 years ago, I've been in business now 21 years. How did that happen? I now have gray hair. I didn't when I started. Well, maybe I cut my hair then. But I wanted my dog to do what I said. I was still training with positive reinforcement, but I
Mm,
wanted sit when I say sit, lay down when I say lay down, go to a mat. Now it's all about choice. Or does it make sense? Why am I asking my dog to do that? Is that a skill that's needed? Um,
mm.
so again, with feeling physically and emotionally safe, empowering a being, dog or person, by giving them choice in their life is what's critically, critically important.
Yeah, I mean, could not agree more. And it's something that I got to experience with my two. I mean, the other two were they came, from puppy and they're sort of happy-go-lucky, nothing ever happened to them. So they kind of almost like they roll in a different way. But these two boys, they had a start that you think like no puppy should have. And I experienced it. All I could find was like train your dog to sit and train your dog, and none of it worked with them. None of it worked with them. So where that's what got me started, like there's got to be something else. There's something missing here. It doesn't make sense. So I'd be curious how what sparked your curiosity to look beyond the commands, especially with what you just said, when you
Yeah.
said, well, I was training positive, so that was a good start, but what sparked you to look in that direction?
Well, let me go back a little bit further in history. I Brad and I trained our first dog, who came to us as a stray, with old-fashioned aversive techniques, choke collars and prong collars. We found a trainer in Atlanta, lived in Atlanta at the time, and we wanted our dog to be well trained. We wanted our dog to behave. So we went to class and we were issued a mat, a choke chain to throw at the dog, a prong collar, a choke collar, and a leash. And we were taught to use those tools very effectively and to alpha roll our dogs when they didn't do something that we liked. And then an Australian Shepherd came into our home. We had longed for an Aussie. We'd moved to the mountains by then. We had lots of space. We knew the breed needed a lot of mental stimulation and exercise. We'd done our research. And so Carter joined our home, and I wanted to do agility because there were no classes around me. I bought books. And in the books, I learned about positive reinforcement. Oh my gosh, this is what my dad used on prison inmates, who's a chief psychologist at the prison system he worked in. And I started using it with Carter, and it's like, oh my gosh, I have immediate buy-in. I have the most enthusiastic learner. He's happy. He wants to train with me. I don't have to feel bad because I feel like I'm hurting my dog. And the training's effective. And fast forward a few months, maybe 6 or 8 months later, we took our first professional agility lesson. And 2 days later, he was hit by a car and tragically killed.
Oh my God.
So you'll learn about that in my next book. But I went into a 3 month depression. Didn't know that's what I was in at the time, but clawed myself out and said, I want to learn to help people. I want people to learn there's a different way. I want to help other people learn. But I didn't mean I was going to be a dog trainer. I just wanted to like maybe help our shelter and help friends. Well, be careful, when you set
Be
intentions
careful
because
what you wish for,
they
right?
might be really delivered. So I already had that. But what caused me, even though I was using positive reinforcement, I think it was just evolving and trying to understand, why am I really asking these things of my dog? Um, and because I was learning more about choice, and who cares if your dog stands when you might have asked them to sit? Maybe we're just asking them to hang out. I'll say stay. My cue is wait, but hang out there for a minute until I, you know, ask you to move because maybe I'm opening the gate or I'm doing something that would make it not safe for my dog. But standing's fine. The dog doesn't need to sit. Do I care if he moves a lot? So I think it's just probably relaxing everything in life, including my own pressure on myself to be or do a certain way based on what professional dog training might have said you need to be, right?
Hmm, for sure.
So anything taken to the extreme can be maybe not the best. So thankfully, Brad and I both, we've been on this evolution together through our whole life and career. And we both feel that way. And I think in general, um, child education, and I've not had children, so I can't speak to this personally. I think it's moved that way as well. So thinking about using positive reinforcement with my dogs has not only changed my dog's life and feeling emotionally safe and physically safe and giving them choice, but that bleeds into human relationships. And doesn't this world need more of that in
For sure.
general?
For sure. So, I mean, this idea of a dog needs to feel safe before they can learn anything, that makes all the sense in the world. So, what are things that you would suggest people, like if I'm saying like, okay, all right, it's the
What
first
do I
time I
what do
heard
I
about
do?
this.
How do you get started?
How do I, like what does that even mean? What does that look like? I mean, I know when I feel safe or I don't, like physically and or emotionally. So how will I know whether
So
my dog
yeah,
feels safe? And because we also know they're kind of very good at hiding their distress. So it's not always that easy to tell. How do I know whether my dog feels safe? And if I get a sense that my dog might not feel safe, then what are things that I can do to help them relax?
brilliant, brilliant questions. So, in order to understand a person or a dog, in order to understand a being, we have to be able to speak their language. And if we can't speak to our dogs verbally, of course we can teach them words, but if we can't speak to them, how can we understand? Humans, it might be neurolinguistic programming and understanding those body cues that people are giving us. Am I sitting back like this or am I, really open? Well, if we take the time to learn about how dogs communicate with their body, what I call dog body language, then we can begin to understand their stress signals, their appeasing signals, their fear signals, their I believe all aggression is based on fear,
Yeah,
because I'm going
100%.
to aggress towards something that I might be afraid of. But taking the time to educate yourself, Lily Chen is a great artist who does dog body language photos and has written a great book. There are many other resources out there, but understand how dogs communicate with their body. And certain signals, like a paw lift, could be an invitation to play, or it could mean I'm a little fearful right now. So study that, learn that. And if you wonder, is my dog feeling safe? Take a few breaths, observe your dog for a few moments. If you think it's stress, move to another environment. Look around, scan the environment. What's in the environment that might be problematic for that dog? You may think they shouldn't have a problem with it, but really it's all about what do they think.
Mm,
So if in doubt, leave. If in doubt, change the environment to one that you think your dog might feel more comfortable
mm. And I think even that level of respect and empathy, I think it makes all the difference that you're even asking yourself, how like yeah, I mean, what's that like for my dog?
in.
Right.
Yeah.
So I think that is a brilliant start. So in terms of body language, I mean, just remembering, when I was researching all the different, like, okay, how can I kind of, you know, get my two dogs to be, you know, I mean, I was never sort of looking for control or for like obedience. I was never into that. I wanted to communicate well enough to keep them safe. That's really all I wanted, right? So that I could,
Right.
that's why the rocket call recall really caught my attention, because I thought that was one of the things that I was like, I want to make sure that I can call my dog and I know that, if there's a car coming, whatever, that I can rely on that they'll at least stop, so, but I'd be curious to, and because the main message I took away is that like there's so much conflicting stuff out there. Do you find that even when we're talking about body language, are the experts in agreement? Or, because I've seen a lot of things where, well, let's just call a spade a spade. I remember even somebody saying that the lot of the interpretation or what it's known about animal behavior is like male researchers interpreting a situation, and what a man will say, look, there's an alpha dog who tries to dominate the other dog. A woman would look at this, and I'm like, no, they're just trying to get on here. So it's like, who's looking at it, who's describing the situation might paint an entirely different picture. Does that also apply to what's taught about
I
body
think it can.
language?
I think it can, and I'm doing a lot of reading right now in our patriarchal society. So, there, we that could be a whole nother conversation that I'm really not qualified to talk about. Other than as women, we probably lived it. But I think truly, if you start with what I think are trusted publications and trusted authors, to Dogwise is an entity that carries books that are scientifically and ethically sound. At least I don't think there are any that aren't focused on that. And certainly anything on the Positively site or the Victoria Stilwell site, you can trust. And again, Lily Chen,
Mm.
who has a great book and free downloads of posters for cats and dogs on her site. So that's a perfect way to start. But you mentioned Rocket Recall, my book, which I keep right beside me. The Why did I write it? How can I say that in about 4 sentences? First, I wrote it to help people learn that there is an effective way that keeps your dog feeling physically and emotionally safe while you're training a life-saving skill.
Yeah.
So that's it, life-saving skill. The first half of the book, I go into the training of behavior concepts that underlie, that are the foundation that we can then build upon. Not only the focus and attention or recall exercises in my book, but anything you want to teach your dog. So while you think, do I really need recall? Well, I think you do. The call to come, right? A lot of the general population may not understand the word recall, but we're recalling a dog to us. We're recalling a child to us. Hey, Brad, come over here. We're recalling, a person to us. But it's really known as the cue come. I prefer other cues that are more fun. My clients have chosen martini and happy hour because it's just a word. It's just a
Yeah.
sound to a dog.
And you also don't want to use something that you'll use all the time, everyday language. And the dog
Right.
goes like, what? What?
And I don't like the word come for two reasons. One, if you've adopted a dog, you have no idea what that dog's prior experience with that word is. So they may have
Mm.
a conditioned emotional response that's not so feeling so good to them, like, I don't like that word. Or it can be said in the hardest tone if we get frustrated. Come.
Yeah.
Who wants to come to somebody who looks scary and is speaking sternly? So um, yeah, so that first half of the book goes through all those concepts, a tad bit of learning theory, just why something works or why something doesn't, um, and is a good groundwork before you go into the recall training exercises. And the simplest exercises are teaching your dog name recognition. When I say my dog's name, it means look at me and wait for further instruction. I thought of this yesterday as Keaton was headed for our creek, which is just 60 feet outside my office window, and I didn't want him to get muddy again. So I just said in a happy tone of voice, Keaton, and he'll probably come. He just looked at me like, huh? What, Mom? Let's go this way. So a simple name recognition, which is so easy to teach using the progressive steps in my book, can stop your dog from doing something. Not even a recall, right? I didn't call him to come. It prevented him from launching into the creek and prevented me from lots of mud on
So,
long-haired
life saving
Australian.
on both ends then, right?
Yeah. Yeah. Um, so yes, feeling safe,
Hmm.
physically, emotionally, feeling happy. Um, how do we know our dogs are happy? Well, I think we know when they're joyful, you know, and it's important to let your dog be joyful and frolic and have fun. I talked about this just with Brad this morning. I was thinking about an email I want to send out to our community next week prior to Valentine's Day. I'm like, what's the number one gift you can give your dog? And it's not tangible. It's not a product. It's time.
Mm.
Time, it makes me cry. Time well spent with your dog. Our dogs are social creatures and they want nothing more to be with us. Yet so many dogs are banished to other areas because maybe they don't have the manners their people want. Or if they're not, maybe that's not the case. Maybe their people work all day. And so they get little interaction during the day. I would tell you that if you could ask a dog, what is it that you want more of from your human, they would say time with them.
Yeah. That makes me cry too. And it's actually one of the reason that I had to, that I was 40 when I got my first dog because I always wanted a dog my entire life. As a child, my parents wouldn't let me have one. And there was always the part of me that, well, I would have loved to have a dog, and I understand because, even as a child, it's like, yeah, my parents were both working, I was at school all day, right? And that's always been the thing. It's like, I don't want a dog that's alone at home all day. And I waited until I moved to Spain, started my own business where I could work from home and I could have the dog around every day, all day. And that's when I thought, like, okay, I'm open. I can have it. I feel I can have a dog now, because I think it's just not fair if we can't give them the life that they deserve.
Yeah, it really is a challenge to if you have two working adults or you're single, how can you make sure your dog's needs are met? And so
Mm.
that's an overarching theme of feeling safe, enrichment, physical exercise, social enrich. I mean, that is really the crux of everything. How do we meet that being's needs? And a lot of people aren't meeting their dog's needs because they just don't understand what those needs really are.
So what are
Um,
some of the most misunderstood needs that you see in your work?
I think while I think most people understand that physical exercise is needed, they don't understand that mental enrichment and mental stimulation can be as tiring and better for your dog than physical exercise. So if you are exercising your dog more in hopes of getting a calmer dog, think twice about it because you're really training an athlete.
Mm.
So that dog may need more calming enrichment, time spent with your dog, slow body massage.
Mm.
Take a long line. A long line to me is a 15 or 20-foot leash. And I like the material biothane because it doesn't pick up dirt or water. And put your dog on a long line. Make sure you're safe. Maybe not so great for a neighborhood. You might need to find a non-busy street. But take your dog on a 20-minute, what I call sniffy walk or dog-led walk. The dogs see the world through their noses, and it's so enriching for them to check out P-mail. And, that's their social media is they're checking out who's been there, what sex is the dog, and let them pee, let them mark, let them sniff. You know, don't drag the, oh, for God's sake, please don't drag them away from a scent.
Mm.
That'd be like, for me, that would be like somebody taking an ice cream cone out of my hand
Yeah, it's just
and making
to
me leave it.
slap your hand and then you have
I would,
your morning coffee. I'm gonna
yeah, I
thank
wouldn't
you.
be very happy about that. So I think that's probably the most misunderstood. You know,
Mm.
though, depending on environments, we live in a very rural area. We unfortunately see dogs who are chained
Yeah.
outside. So that dog's bottom level of the triangle Maslow's hierarchy, those dogs don't even have that. So it depends on where you are. But I think general um, pet parents, dog owners, guardians, all of which I refer to them as periodically, it can probably be um, a balance between physical exercise and um, mental stimulation or mental enrichment.
Yeah.
Um, yeah,
It's beautiful to see that this becomes more recognized. It's funny because when I had like my first dog, Leo, you know, to be honest, I thought, well, that's the only thing that makes sense to me.
yeah,
I would
yeah.
let him sniff, and I'm like, yeah, okay, I won't let you pee in the neighbor's door, whatever, but I would definitely, I still to this day think, well, my job on this walk is like your bodyguard. So it's my job to make sure you're safe. There's no like keep an eye on, to make sure you're not getting yourself in situations that are kind of dangerous for anybody. But other than that, the purpose of the walk is for you to be able to, sniff and have a good time and, and get a bit of choice, and so I will literally, and the amount, but the thing is, like, now I'm living in a beach town, and it's quiet, and so nobody and I also have two really big dogs now, so nobody messes with me, which is brilliant. But when I had the little ones, the boys, it was just the amount of, well, call it criticism I got, when people go, well, you look at her, like it started from, like, sort of when you can hear them, like, when you walk past and go, look at her being dragged along the street, and that wasn't even true. It was just, I didn't have an 8 foot I had a shorter leash, or like my parents would always try this retractable one, that one, a good idea, but basically try and give them some space. And sometimes you'd go, oh, look, there's something. And then I'd be after that. So, but I mean, the dog would lead, and I'd be like, all right, as long as you don't drag me along the street, I'm fine. But the amount of, like, look at her. And then you'd go, well, no, 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 you need to be the boss. The dog can't be in front of you. The dog needs to be beside you, and you can't let them pee where they want. And that's just never made sense to me. And it feels so reassuring, now hearing people like you saying, well, actually, they should get walks like that.
Yeah, absolutely. I am here to tell you, thankfully, I think, hopefully, that old-fashioned dominance theory that's been debunked for decades and decades, um, there's less and less of that. But I am here after 21 years of professional dog training, living with my dogs. I'm here to tell you that your dog is not conspiring to take over the world. Absolutely not. And I was thinking about this last week, and I was walking because yeah, because of all these years I've been dog training. I've been thinking about clients I've had in the past. And there was a client I went to see for the first time, had this beautiful, I think it was a poodle. And I was just coming in, and we were beginning to talk about things. And they had a few really minor issues that they thought were really big. Okay, big to them, that's important. We need to address the client's needs. They have needs too. But the man got up out of his recliner to go get something in the other room. And the dog jumped up on the recliner and laid down. He came back and said, see, he's being dominant. I said, have you ever stopped to think that that just might be more comfortable than the hardwood floors? I never
Oh.
thought of that. So, yeah,
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 I think there's still a bit of work to do, right? I think
there
that
is.
it's a lot has changed. I think there's a lot of movement. It feels there's quite a bit of momentum in a much nicer direction, but I think there's still a bit of work to
Yeah,
do. So,
I think there will always be that. I think the curve hopefully is a little bit different, but there's I'm so I'm so thrilled when I see people on the street. And of course, it's not much here because we were 15 miles outside of a town of 1,500 people. So I don't get to town or do city, the urban, my little small town walks with my dog much. But I'm out in other places and I'm seeing people with their dogs. It just thrills me to see harnesses, so nothing's around their neck that could damage their esophagus or their trachea. Um, and I keep telling all of my students that something that would be very good for their business. And did I mention, yeah, aspiring dog training professionals is get a little card. I never did this. I said I was going to do it, never did it. So somebody else needs to do it. Get a little bit like business shaped card. And of course, have your business information on one side of it, but the other side, have it be, I'll call it a click treat. Have it be a compliment like, thank you for being a dog guardian today. Thank you for
oh,
being kind to your dog, however you want to phrase it. And then when you see people doing awesome things with their dogs, which is 99% of the time, give them that positive reinforcement. Let them know
it works
that,
for the owners too, right?
yeah, absolutely, it does. We just retired from teaching a dog training prison program. So we spent 12 and a half years. Every Thursday we were in jail. And to see the detainees go from maybe week 3, when we start introducing the concept on week 1 and start working with dogs and helping them understand what positive reinforcement is. And no, we're not going to use that old-fashioned stuff, because most of them come with that from the environments they've been raised in, because that's how they were raised. It's about week 3 that a couple of the detainees with children will say, I can probably use this with my children. Like, yeah,
So, mm,
yeah, you can. It works with people too.
yeah.
And thank you, Karen Pryor, now in heaven, who helped us understand all of that in the book, Don't Shoot the Dog, which
I
was
love
written
that.
as a middle management text, not a dog trainer text, by the way.
Isn't that interesting, right? I would love to have you back about that prison experiment, because I've read things about experiments like that or
Oh, yeah.
projects like that, and I'm totally intrigued. So that I would love to have you back to
Oh,
talk
yes.
about
I'm
that.
going to raise my hand to come back, and I'll definitely talk about that. It's something I love so much. And then also, the next book I'm writing, which is entitled The Death of a Dog Changes You. In addition to losing Carter, I lost a dog at 6 years old. And then in this book, when you buy it, your listeners will buy it, or your watchers will buy it. This is about Kaylee and how I worked with her. And 2 weeks, she was 4. 2 weeks after this was released, she died suddenly.
Oh, it's just
So
heartbreaking. Yeah. Oh
yeah,
boy.
and so every dog has brought monumental changes to me personally and professionally. And so, yeah, that's the next book.
Well, that
I
means
hope
I'm gonna have you back twice. So
yeah,
in the
exactly.
meantime, let people know where they can find out about you.
Find
Obviously
us
I'm gonna pop the book link in
perfect.
the everything's gonna
You
be
can
in the
find
show
us,
notes.
you can find us 2 places. One, really, they're the same, just 2 different pages on our website. One is coldnosecollege.com. The other is rocketrecall.com. So you have a link that you
I
can
have the links.
send out
Yep.
or add, which you can download the quick reference guide to the 12 most important points to Rocket Recall. So, it's proven that if you just pick up something to look at a couple times a day, short bits of reading, that it starts to cement in your memory. So that's why that's a free download. And then there is a Rocket Recall instructor handouts for trainers that gives them 19 handouts so they can give them to their clients when they're ready to progress in the systematic progressive protocol. And then there is a online course, over 42 how-to videos and 90 photos, which takes you through in an online course, this book. Both the online course and the handouts are about to have steep discounts because Valentine's Day is coming up. That V
Awesome.
in Valentine, how deep that V shape is, those are going to be the deep discounts for
Ooh, awesome.
Rocket.
So we're gonna make sure that comes out before that happens so people can take advantage of it.
And
So
if I didn't provide you with, I'll follow up and I'll give you those links so you can add those as well.
awesome. Well, thank you so much. This was absolutely delightful, and I'm already looking forward to the next one.
Oh, thank you. I am too, Anka. I just can't thank you enough, and stay warm.
I will. Thank
Okay.
you.
You're welcome.
Thanks so much for listening. If you enjoyed the episode, don't forget to subscribe and leave a review so other dog lovers can find the show. If you haven't already, head over to soultouchedbydogs.com and sign up for weekly doggy cuteness, tips, recommendations, and personal stories to warm your dog-loving heart. And if you know a awesome human you think I should interview, I'd love an introduction. Email me at Anke, that's ANKE, @soultouchedbydogs.com.